All right, let's talk about the 22 Magnum, or 22 WMR if you want to get technical. For the longest time, this little guy got zero respect in the gun community. People wrote it off as just a squirrel cartridge, something only good for plinking around in the backyard. They seriously thought a rimfire round couldn't hang with the big boys like 9mm or 45 auto. Well, guess what? They were dead wrong. And a lot of those folks are scrambling to reread their ballistics charts and hitting gun stores, only to find the 22 WMR shelves looking pretty bare. Stick with me here because we're going to dive into how a cartridge that's been around since '59 suddenly grew some serious teeth for modern urban survival. You might just find yourself thinking it deserves a spot, not just in your varmint gun, but also in your carry rotation and even your bug-out bag. See, back when Winchester first brought out the Magnum Rimfire, the idea was simple. Give small game hunters a round that could reach out further than .22 long rifle without all the noise and weight of a center fire cartridge. And for decades, it did that job quietly. Most shooters never bothered to ask if it could do more. The game changed when ammo engineers finally started getting serious about designing purpose-built loads for the 222 WMR instead of just repackaging the same old stuff your grandpa might have had in his tackle box. Companies like Hornady, Spear, Federal, Norma, and CCI took the same lessons learned from high-pressure service calibers. Things like controlled expansion, bonded jackets, barrier testing, and shrunk them down to rimfire size. Once these new era loads hit the market, gun manufacturers started building firearms that could actually run them reliably. Federal's 45-grain punch load is a prime example of this new thinking. The nickel-plated cases feed smooth as butter even after a long day at the range, and that deep hollow point, it actually hits those FBI spec gel depths, even from a little 2-inch barrel, while still grouping tight. Like 1-inch groups out of a 16-inch carbine. A box of 50 might list for around $27, but honestly, it shoots way better than those bargain bulk packs that end up costing you almost as much anyway when you factor in all the duds and keyholes. Hornady's 45-grain critical defense is another solid choice. You're looking at around 18 to 27 for a box of 50. It also cranks out that 1,000 feet per second velocity from a snubby. But it's got that little red flex tip that helps guarantee expansion through stuff like denim without getting clogged up. Spear jumped in too with their 40-grain gold dot, specifically tuned for shorter barrels. It's rated at 1,050 feet per second and goes for about 16 to 12 for a box of 50. We've got 3 different companies here, 3 independently validated gel tests. And every one of them proves that .22 mag will punch 12 to 15 inches deep and double in diameter. Yeah, the initial hole might look small, but things get nasty real fast downrange. Now, the reliability question always pops up with rimfire, right? The priming compound lives in the rim of the case instead of a separate cup. And back in the day, uneven distribution meant you were playing click-bang roulette. Modern automated priming has seriously closed that gap. But look, I'm going to keep it real with you. In a semi-auto pistol, you're depending on things like magazine feed geometry and extractor tension. You throw in a thin case rim and some fouling, and yeah, you might get a stoppage you won't see with centerfire. That's why I personally like pairing rimfire with firearms that can forgive a single round failure. Take the Smith & Wesson Model 351C, for example. You get 7 shots in a J-frame that weighs just 11 ounces empty. If a round doesn't go off, a second trigger pull just skips right to the next one. The aluminum frame keeps the recoil practically non-existent, which is great even for shooters with a bit of arthritis. It runs about $750 on the street, which is kind of steep for a pocket pistol, but it's lighter than any centerfire option with that kind of capacity. If size isn't your main concern and you want a proper sight radius, I lean towards the stainless Smith & Wesson 648. MSRP is $829, and you get an 8-round K-frame with a 6-inch barrel, adjustable sights, and pretty much zero muzzle flip. Load it up with Federal Punch or Hornady VMAX, and you'll be printing sub-2-inch groups at 25 yards offhand. It'll also keep coyotes honest past 50. Ruger's single-action single 9 is another sweet option with 9 chambers, beautiful walnut grips, and a 6.5-inch barrel. It retails for $870 and soaks recoil until follow-up shots feel like double-clicking a mouse. For the semi-auto crowd, there are some cool new toys out there too. Walther finally jumped into the ring with the Walther WMP. It lists around $540, but can be found closer to $470 in stores. It takes 15-round magazines, comes ready for an optic, and has Walther's clever quadrille system, paddles and buttons on both sides. Lefties rejoice. No aftermarket parts needed here. On my bench, this thing ate Hornady Critical Defense and CCI TNT Green without a single hiccup over 300 rounds. The recoil impulse feels more like a gas-operated .22 LR rifle than a pistol. That means even new shooters can land rapid pairs inside 3 inches at 10 yards. Kel-Tec's PMR-30 pushes capacity further. 31 rounds of 2022 Magnum in a gun that weighs under a pound empty. Almost sounds like science fiction, but real owners have been carrying them since 2010. The current optic cut model sells around $370 and includes high-vis fiber sights right out of the box. Critics call it toy-like, and the polymer flex does feel odd after a steel 1911. But the gun flat works if you respect its ammo preferences. Load it with lightweight 40 grain or less. Tip the mags to seat rounds fully, and you'll enjoy 30-round strings ringing 10-inch steel faster than you ever managed with a 9mm. All that firepower is wasted if shots don't connect under stress. Here's where physics quietly crowns 22. Mag the king of controllability. A typical 9mm micro has 4 to 6 foot-pounds of recoil energy. A 2-inch .22 DMR snubby sits near 1 foot-pound. That difference may not matter from a bench, but dump adrenaline into the bloodstream, and every little twitch becomes a flyer. Lower recoil lets ordinary shooters land faster follow-ups and place rounds precisely where they matter: heart, spine, central nervous system. The cartridge may start with less energy, yet 2 hits in the same cardiac triangle beat 1 miss with a so-called man-stopper every day. Energy isn't everything anyway. A study of more than 1-800 documented shootings by Greg Ellifritz showed 22 long rifle produced a higher percentage of one-shot stops to the torso than .40 S&W. The reason? Penetration and shot placement outshine raw energy. 92. Mag keeps energy above 100 foot-pounds from 2-inch barrels and well above 300 from 16-inch rifles while meeting that FBI 12-inch depth standard. That means you get both reach and blood loss potential, plus easier handling. Penetration worries go the other way, too. Urban defense means walls, neighbors, thin drywall between bedrooms. A bonded 9mm might exit an attacker and still have juice to cross 2 rooms. Federal punch in 22 WMR generally stops inside the attacker's body or the wall behind him while still giving adequate depth. Less risk to your kids sleeping across the hall is worth considering. Ammo cost and availability round out the argument. Even with inflation, 50-round boxes of quality number 22. Mag remain below $30, and bulk packs dip closer to $20 when sales hit. That works out to 40 to 60 cents a shot for premium defensive loads, about half the price of similar quality 9mm hollow points these days. Training with the actual load you carry therefore hurts your wallet far less, so you'll practice more and shoot better. The round also rides under the radar of most legislation. Politicians chasing weapons of war rarely notice a rimfire, leaving shelves stocked when panic buying empties every 9mm bin in town. Weight, capacity, and noise. Weight and capacity matter just as much when you're the one lugging groceries through a dim parking garage. A loaded PMR-30 weighs barely 20 ounces. Compare that to a 17-round Glock 19 tipped at 30 ounces. You gain 13 extra shots, yet shed 10 ounces. Less weight on the belt means more comfort and a higher likelihood you'll actually carry instead of stashing the gun at home. Noise and flash influence survivability, too. Firing a 9mm inside a car or hallway turns ears into instant fuzz. Follow-up communication suffers, and so does situational awareness. 22. Mag from a 4-inch barrel still rings, yet the concussive blast drops dramatically. Add a suppressor to a threaded Henry Frontier lever gun or Ruger American rimfire target, and you can defend livestock or pick off rooftop pests without waking the block. Subsonic loads like Federal Punch from a suppressor keep muzzle noise below 140 dB into the hearing-safe range. Now consider logistics during extended emergencies. Each loaded 25-round PMR-30 magazine weighs under 7 ounces. 5 mags give you 125 rounds ready to roll for just over 2 pounds. To carry the same total energy in 9mm, you'd pack 8 Glock mags at almost 4.5 pounds. The extra weight might feel fine on a flat range, but hike 10 miles with a med kit, water, and food, and you'll wish for lighter cargo. The cartridge also doubles as a survival hunting round. Hornady's 30-grain VMAX leaves a rifle at 2,200 feet per second and vaporizes prairie dogs, raccoons, even coyotes out to 100 yards. Federal's 50-grain small-game hollow point runs 1,530 feet per second and drops tree squirrels without destroying meat. One ammunition type handling both two-legged and four-legged threats streamlines the bug-out kit. Norma's 40-grain JHP, selling around $21 per 50 Ds, is a true jack-of-all-trades. Reliable expansion, good penetration in gel, and decent accuracy in every barrel length I've tested. Ammunition innovation even reached the eco-compliance crowd. CCI's 30-grain TNT Green provides lead-free legality in states like California while still launching at 2,050 feet per second. When laced into a Kel-Tec CMR 30 carbine, you can run a quiet, high-capacity, low-recoil package that satisfies restrictive wildlife regulations, yet remains entirely lethal on marauding dogs or thieves. Skeptics might ask why law enforcement or the military don't adopt 22 mag if it's so capable. Context answers that. Uniformed officers must defeat autoglass, car doors, thick winter clothing, and sometimes body armor. Infantry demand a barrier blindness and maximum range. Civilian defenders face soft targets at conversational distances in cluttered apartments. Overpenetration, blast, and recoil matter more than barrier defeat. 22. Meg covers that niche perfectly. It's not about replacing 9mm service pistols. It's about giving armed citizens an option that balances power with control better than any center-fire mouse gun. Real incidents reinforce the point. In 2021, a 70-year-old Ohio homeowner used a North American Arms 22 Mag Mini revolver to stop a daylight intruder with 2 rounds to the torso. The attacker fled, collapsed blocks away, and later died in surgery. Police recovered both bullets lodged near the spine. The shooter remained uninjured, and no neighbors reported hearing gunfire even though windows were open. Lower muzzle blasts likely bought precious seconds to call 911 and give clear information under stress. Experience guides my own preference for rimfire revolvers on the trapline and semi-auto carbines around the homestead. The guns ride light, stay controllable when adrenaline spikes, and let me carry triple the ammo count of a centerfire loadout for half the weight. Critical defense rounds stack in the cylinder for town visits, and VMAX fills the rifle mags for pasture patrol. The transition from one roll to another requires no new zero or recoil adjustment. Cost, comfort, capacity, and capability converge on 222 mag like nowhere else in the handgun world right now. Polymer-tipped bullets give controlled expansion. Nickel plating, bonded jackets, and strict QC solve the ignition puzzle. Modern pistols and revolvers offer capacity and convenience once limited to centerfire. For citizens who carry more than standard and body armor, the age-old arguments against rimfire have worn thin. The 22 Magnum, once maligned as a rodent round, now gives ordinary shooters the power to put accurate, penetrating shots on target faster and with less recoil than any mainstream centerfire. Its ammunition stays affordable, its blast stays bearable, and its gear keeps expanding. Those are qualities worth betting your life on when the alley turns dark or the grid goes down.